Hello, and welcome to IAL Math. In today's video, I will discuss the methods and resources that I used to study for A-level mathematics. Using these tips, I was able to get an A-star in mathematics with a full UMS in Mechanics 1 and in the C3-4 exam. If you want to improve your grade, for example, turn your A into an A-star or your A-star into a distinction or full marks, then keep watching. First of all, as you can see on my screen, I have the website examsolutions.net open. This is the main website that I use to study because I was a private student. The videos on this website are extremely helpful. You can use these to self-study for your exams, or you can use these for revision purposes also. So let's get into the tips. My first tip would be that you should solve the questions from your textbook as you go. So basically, if you finish the chapter at school, the first chapter at school, or if you're watching these videos, so if you're done watching the videos for the first chapter and you're done with those videos, then you solve the questions from your textbook related to that chapter. This is to make sure that you have retained the information properly, because you can't really understand mathematics until you actually do the questions yourself, okay? So once you solve the questions and understand the topic, move on to the topical past paper questions. You can find the topical questions on the website physicsandmathtutor.com. This website also has revision notes for all subjects. So solving the topical past paper questions will help you understand the type of question you will get in your exam. Okay, so it's really important because just by solving the questions in your textbook, it won't be as effective. The questions which are actual exam questions from your past papers, they will actually be more helpful and they will help you get an idea of what kind of questions you will get in your exam. My next tip is that you should leave 1 or 2 questions or more, if there are a lot of questions in that set, to solve later. So basically, once you're done with a set, don't complete the entire set, leave a few questions at the end to solve later for revision. So when you are doing the next chapters, you can come back to these questions and solve 1 or 2 questions regularly for revision. Don't leave many questions, just leave maybe like 2 or 3 questions. Next is that once you're done with the entire syllabus, move on to solving complete past papers. For the first 1 or 2 past papers, take your time and try to solve all the questions on your own. If you're stuck with a question, don't go on and see the solution for that question, okay? Move on to the next question, complete the past paper, and come back to that question after some time and try and solve it again. And if you still can't solve it on your own, then you go on and look at the mark scheme. But please don't look at the entire solution, just look at the first step in the mark scheme. You can see that in the mark scheme there are steps like for the questions. So if you look at the first step and you instantly understand how you should solve this question, just close the mark scheme and solve the question on your own. If that doesn't work, look at the next step. If it still doesn't help, look at the third step. Don't look at the entire solution and try to solve whatever you can on your own. The point here is to try and solve as much as possible on your own. Now let's move on to solving past papers while timing yourself. Okay, so here the first 2 or 3 past papers you were solving just to make sure that you had understood everything and you knew the entire syllabus properly. Now you're timing yourself as if you're in the actual exam. Leave the questions that you can't solve because of time, then come back to them after the time is up, before checking the paper. Now take your time to solve the questions that you couldn't complete because of the time limit. Okay, so first you try and solve whatever questions you can within the exam time, and then the questions that you left because of time, come back to them and solve them on your own. Don't check the exam yet. Once you're done solving everything that you could solve, then you check it. First, just look at the answers in the mark scheme directly and match them with your answers. If all your answers are correct, then you can move on to the next step. But if you got something wrong, then go through your solution yourself and see if there's a mistake that you can find, maybe a mistake, a silly mistake or something. If you don't know where you went wrong, then you can move on to the next step. Otherwise, correct your mistake and check the answer again. Now, this final tip is the most important tip, I think. It is about how to check your answers from the mark scheme. You should never just look at the final answer and match it with your answers, and that's it. You should never do that. This method should be done in the previous step, just for roughly checking your answers, but not as a proper method to check your answers. After you're done with the previous step, you must check by going through every step in the mark scheme. So the point is that you must go through every single step mentioned in your mark scheme. This is important because you will learn which steps are important and will get you the marks in the exam. You will also be able to find out some mistakes in your technique which your examining board does not accept. And there are also alternative methods in the mark scheme which may be helpful. You may find a method which you like and understand better than your own method. So you can learn that method by looking at the mark scheme and use it when you solve the next papers. Now, why do I say that this step is very important? This step is super important to make sure that you're not just practicing the wrong thing over and over again. We want to practice, okay? You must have heard the saying that practice makes perfect, but you don't want to be practicing the wrong thing because that will not be beneficial, okay? So you want to make sure that you practice the right thing. You will be able to correct any mistakes as you go, because once you solve a paper and you find any mistakes in your steps, in your methods, you can correct them, and when you solve the next paper, you don't repeat the same mistakes. And it will also help you get familiar with the marking methods of your examining board. What kind of answers they expect from the students, because it's written in the notes that allow this or do this or do that. Those notes are very important so you can understand what the board allows, and some things it says does not allow this at all. And sometimes you're solving something, you get the correct answer, but your method is wrong, and it's written in the notes that if the student has used this method, do not allow it. So you will find out what the board accepts and what it doesn't accept, and you can improve your marks by looking at the mark scheme thoroughly. I have another tip that I've seen many students solve the same past papers over and over again. So basically they solve past papers, they finish the sets quickly, like all the past papers that are available, and then because they have time, they go back and solve again. I don't think this helps in math especially. In my opinion, it's better to solve one paper just once, okay? But solve it using the techniques I have mentioned in this video. It will take time because you will be checking your papers, and also one paper will take a lot of time. But you will be able to learn and benefit a lot more using this method instead of just solving the same questions again, because you will be already familiar with a question that you had solved previously, so you're not really looking at a new question or learning something new or improving, okay? So you want to make sure that the questions that you get wrong, those are the questions that you work on a lot, and those are the questions that you try and get right, and you try and get those questions right so that you can actually learn something new that you didn't know before. I have a few other channels listed in the description below that might be helpful. You can use many channels on YouTube, like my channel as well, which have past paper solutions for help when you're stuck on a question and even the mark scheme doesn't seem to solve your doubt, because it's just written solutions and you don't know why a certain step was done, and the mark scheme is sometimes not really clear. So you can come to these channels and you can watch those videos, and hopefully you can clear your doubt by watching those videos. So I hope this video helps at least someone, and if you think it was helpful, please share it with your friends and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and good luck with your exams.